Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Harish Tenetti, oral and maxillofacial surgeon, and today I'm going to talk about child psychology. Though it is a pediatric dentistry subject, but I'm much fascinated about this psychology, mind, overall dentistry. So I can talk about any topic. If you want me to talk about any topic, please put it in the comment section. I can make it easy for you. This just I'm doing it for students. So some small aspects I'm wantedly missing them, or some things I'm wantedly avoiding them, because that is not really important for students. All right. So today in child psychology, the basic classification is like this. So psychosexual or psychoanalytical theory proposed by Freud or Freud, you can call it anyway, Sigmund Freud or Sigmund Freud, and psychosocial by Erik Erikson, cognitive theory by Jean Piaget. So I remember it like that. This Freud fellow, he's a great scientist though, but I'm telling you, this fraud fellow is always thinking psychosexual, like that psycho fellow. Oh, remember this. This is very very important. This forms the basis of all the, because it's the first and age old thing. So Freud theory was very first proposed, properly proposed the theory. So psychosexual, that is Freud, and psychosocial is done by Erik Erikson. See, we in Hyderabad we call people as kirak, mad people, or those who are hatke. Those we call them as crack, Erik. So Erik Erikson is like that. They are all crack people, and that too psychosocial. In society, there are so many psychos who are crack. This just for you to remember. I'm telling this. Erik Erikson is not really crack, but in general to see that way you will remember it for a long time. And cognition is your ability to think, reason. So think like that. So when you wear jeans and all, you feel you are advanced, and you start thinking more. So cognitive theory proposed by Jean Piaget. All right, and those are Pia is when you drink, so you start talking more, so you reason more. So cognitive thinking or cognitive theory is Jean Piaget. Not exactly, but it is easy for you to remember like that. So cognitive theory was proposed by Jean Piaget. These are psychodynamic theories. The other theories of learning and development of behavior was proposed, and they are like this hierarchy of needs by Maslow. See, hierarchy, needs, usually in the mass or in the low grade people or labor category people will have needs, lot of needs, right? So everyone has needs, but in general, to remember it more, the hierarchy of needs is for the low grade and only for the mass population. And classical conditioning, I remember it like this. After our generally after our classes, we go out, have pani puri, pav bhaji and all. So we used to have like that in our 10th class. After classes and all, we go out, have pav bhaji. So I remember it like that. After a class, you have pav bhaji, right? Pavlov, Ivan Pavlov. So classic is, after class is Pavlov. Then operant condition, to operate anything you have to cut the skin first. So Skinner, remember this Skinner as operant conditioning proposed by Skinner. And then social learning theory. See, you, if you want to interact in society, or if you should be active in social media, you should keep posting about yourself, keep talking about yourself. You have to keep hitting the band about yourself. So band is social learning. So to be active in social society or social media, you should have your own band. So that's how you remember bandura or bandura. All right, this way you can remember it. So hierarchy of needs was proposed by Maslow, classical conditioning was proposed by Pavlov, operant conditioning by Skinner, social learning theory was proposed by Bandura. All right, and psychosexual and psychoanalytical is always Fraud is anyone who does fraud, psychosexual, psychoanalyticals. Freud. Psychosocial is by Erikson. So Erik Erikson, remember it like that. Cognitive theory by Jean Piaget as cognitive theory. If you can remember it this way, few questions can be answered directly. All right. So to understand any child psychology theory, first basis is Freud's psychoanalytical theory. All right. So psychoanalytical theory consists of basically the structural part is the consciousness, pre-conscious, and subconscious. In that, conscious is what you are thinking currently right now, what you are focusing, what is your object of attention is all in your consciousness. All right. Pre-conscious is your ordinary memory or knowledge. You can, whenever you want, you can get them back during examinations. So you think and write, that's all your pre-conscious. So your ordinary memory and knowledge. Then the subconscious, which is out of your reach, you need to practice, or you need to, that has a different training, and to retrieve it from subconscious is difficult, and it is independent, and it has got urges, feelings, and suddenly ideas also come from subconscious, right? It is proposed like this, a tip of an iceberg. Though this looks like a cup of ice cream, but this is iceberg. All right. And these are the superficial, that is visible part of an iceberg is consciousness, that is the thought. And for the memory and knowledge, the pre-conscious. And subconscious is your fears, urges, shameful experiences, your doubt, your guilt feeling, everything stays here. All right. The subconscious. This is the physical model. The psychic model is id. Some people call it as id, I call it as id, ego, superego, right? Id is from birth. At birth also you have id, that is pleasure principle, and that is instinctive, very very impulse driven. All right. And then 2 to 6 months start developing your ego. Ego is based on the reality principle. You have memory and judgment. The child will start knowing what has to be done, what not to be done, what is allowed, what is not allowed. And then that progresses to super ego. Super ego, with increasing age, it goes to super ego. And prohibition learned from parents and from the authorities. Super ego is like, it is extreme of this side, id is extreme to this side. Ego is your ultimate personality developing, that is you learn from your authorities, parents, then you adjust and you stabilize at the ego, right? So that's ego, superego, and id. If you can remember this much, majority of the questions of fraud analytical theory can be answered. I will not go into each step because everyone know about all the stages and all. So I wanted to quickly go through this. This has got so many questions. So if you can remember this simple chart, most of the questions can be answered. Okay, in the psychodynamic theories, psychosexual is by Freud, because most of you know about Freud theories. I don't want to get into that. Psychosocial, Erik Erikson, it's a very big 8-step process, which I will make another video and let you know. But cognitive theory is relatively smaller but easy to understand also. Cognitive theory states that environment does not shape your behavior. It is your understanding about the environment that creates or shapes your behavior, right? So you have to understand in the environment, learn and seek, then the child will adapt. All right. So here you can remember it as AAE, that is assimilation. You observe, recognize, then accommodation, schemes. You have strategies. Child will form schemes around it, strategies, and then finally get into equilibrium. That's changing your basic assumptions. So there are 4 basic stages in this: sensoromotor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operation stage. This is 0 to 2 years, 2 to 6 years, 6 to 12 years, 11 to 15 years. And sensoromotor, use your all senses and motor. Just remember this concept. You may be able to answer most of the questions in this segment, right? So in 0 to 2 years, you remember the sense and the motor is active and they are functioning. And pre-operational is child as a scientist. So they keep questioning, they have wanted explore everything. That is 2 to 6 years. The child will become a scientist. Whatever characters you remember as scientist, explore more, think about it. They keep comparing things like that. And then 6 to 12 years, child will form concrete operations and become more logical. And then formal operational stages from 11 to 15, where their logic thinking will form a reasoning, and then they have their capacity to the fullest of the reasoning, and the logical capacity will become full. All right. So this theory basically, you applied into the dentistry, it is like this. At sensoromotor stage, that is 0 to 2, you can give a child a toy or engage him with your words. In pre-operational, child patient will understand by animism. That is, you can say X-ray as tooth photograph, like that. All this comes under this. And in the concrete operational 6 to 12, the child gets involved with the treatment. And the formal operation stage, there are a lot of peer influence. All right. So if you can show some positive peer influences, then I think the child will become a good patient. And the greatest advantage with this theory was, it has proposed that we can learn from child's incorrect answers also. When you assess child, their incorrect answers also give about their behavior and personality. All right. So two other very, very common the theories of learning and development of behavior is classical conditioning theory and operant conditioning theory. As I told you, classical, for after the class, is proposed by Pavlov, right? Ivan Pavlov. So the classic example of this is dog example. That is dog and the bell. After the bell, the dog starts salivating, like that. So that you have to, it's a classical example of it. So in classical conditioning theory, acquisition, generalization, extension, and discrimination. Acquisition is learning a new response. Generalization, whenever they see a white coat and they realize it as doctor, they relate it with pain based on their previous experiences. Suppose if it is repeated again and there is no unpleasant experience, then the previous experience become extinct. Discrimination is two different clinical settings. If you can show the patient that not every dental doctor, every dental sitting is painful, then they will slowly start discriminating things. So their previous bad experience with the doctor, or they relating doctor as pain, will slowly become extinct, and discrimination if they can experience good with the doctor in upcoming appointments. Okay. So developing habits, breaking habits, and extincting the conditioned fears can be done by classical conditioning theory. It is proposed like this as acquisition, generalization, extension, and discrimination. So students can remember it as aged, AGED, for classical conditioning. So all classical people or class, those who want to be high class and all, they are aged, old people, like that. All right. So then the operant conditioning theory, operation, you have to cut the skin. So Skinner has given this operant conditioning theory is based on reinforcement. All the behavior that a child learns is based on the reinforcement behavior, and it leads to consequence. The behavior that is leading to consequence is called as contingency, and based on the consequence, if you can positive reinforce to the child, negative reinforce the child, or their omission, that is, suppose if a child doesn't get behave properly, you take away the toy from him, taken away, or you can slightly with a moderate level you can punish, right? So this is the theory behind it, and it is the behavior that controls the environment, and the controlled environment is called as operant. The behavior that controls the environment is called as operant, right? So hence it is called operant conditioning theory. If you can remember this much, this is more than enough for your examination purpose. And if you still want to read further, if you still have you want some topic to be discussed in detail, please ping me in the comment section. I will definitely make sure I will make a video and post it and make it easy for you.